The wind was carrying a scent of pine and smoke, early autumn crispness that made the forest almost too quiet. My cabin stood at the end of Willow Creek Lane, just past the bend where the asphalt thinned and gravel began. Peace, solitude, the kind only a retired investigator could cherish. But that peace had a habit of attracting people who thought rules were suggestions rather than laws. I was cleaning my old Winchester when the first shadow crossed my property line. A black SUV creeping along the gravel like it belonged there. No lights, no markings, just a humming engine and two men sitting too straight in the front seats, scanning the woods as if they were expecting me to appear with a badge and a gun. I didn't move, I just watched. My instinct screamed, watch, record, wait. Because that's what years in fraud investigations teach you. The small details always tell the story before the actors do. One of them leaned out the window, clicking a digital measuring wheel along the edge of my property. Standard HOA intimidation tactic, or so it seemed. I stepped out from behind the pine line, keeping my shotgun holstered but within reach. Daisy, my German shepherd, padded beside me silently, ears forward, tail stiff. The men froze mid-motion, like deer caught in headlights. "Morning," I said, calm, letting my voice carry, not too loud, not too soft, enough to unsettle them. The man closest to the measuring wheel raised his hands slightly. "Sir, this is a routine HOA safety inspection, just checking your property line." I smiled, the kind of cold smile that comes from years of staring liars in the eye. "Really? The HOA doesn't send black SUVs with tinted windows. That's suspicious. Where's your ID?" He hesitated. I don't have it on me. Supervisor said it wasn't necessary." Supervisor. Ha! That word always meant someone at the top was running a chess game, and they were confident you didn't know the rules. I tapped my phone. "Sheriff's office. I'll call them if you don't leave." The man stiffened. Something in the way he glanced at his partner, then at the tree line, gave me the confirmation I needed. They weren't authorized, not even close. I saw it in a flash, their plan. This wasn't just trespassing. They were testing my reactions, hoping to find leverage for an escalation. A psychological map of my patience. And that's when I decided to raise the stakes. I didn't shout. I didn't move too fast. I let the wind carry a whistle. A single, sharp blast, one that had a history of clearing rooms and freezing people in place. The man jumped, nearly dropping the measuring wheel. I didn't need to approach. Just standing there, shotgun at my side, body calm, dog alert, was enough. 2 days later, things escalated. Early morning, I walked past the south pasture to check a downed fence post when I saw a gray sedan parked at the far gate. A man, windbreaker flapping slightly in the breeze, stared at the gravel like he'd discovered a crime scene. The jacket said Willow Creek Infrastructure, but crooked letters and loose threads gave him away. Too clean, too staged, too rehearsed. He pulled out a measuring wheel and began pacing the edge of my driveway. The game had changed. This wasn't HOA harassment anymore. This was deliberate impersonation, premeditated. I stayed hidden, watching every step. When he finally raised his eyes and glanced around, I stepped out from behind the trees. Daisy barked once, not loud, not threatening, just an announcement. "Morning," I said, calmly. "Looking for something?" He swallowed. County inspection. Reports of safety violations." I raised an eyebrow. "County inspection? In a rental sedan? With a homemade badge?" He froze, and in that pause, the first crack in their plan appeared. I called the sheriff by muscle memory, Sheriff Harland, who knew me and trusted me. As I spoke aloud, the imposter paled. There was no record of him, no authorization. By the time he realized he'd been exposed, he ran. Tires spinning, dust rising, leaving behind a small black notebook in his haste. I picked it up carefully. The cover read, Willow Creek HOA Field Notes. Inside, dates, measurements, sketches of my driveway, and instructions. If owner resists, escalate. Use county angle. Build checkpoint if necessary. My jaw tightened. This was beyond harassment. This was a plan for illegal control, fully documented, and whoever wrote it, they underestimated one thing: me. I photographed every page, scanned it, and locked it away. I knew one thing for certain: the storm wasn't over. This time, I wasn't reacting, I was preparing, and Willow Creek Lane would remain mine. But I also knew, deep down, Karen West, the HOA president behind this madness, was about to make her biggest mistake yet. Because when obsession blinds a person and the prey is no longer afraid, the hunter walks straight into the trap.
The morning air was too calm, the kind that hides storms. I could feel it as I stepped onto my porch with Daisy at my heels. The gravel driveway stretched out like a gray ribbon, empty, deceptively peaceful. But Willow Creek Lane had a history now, and anyone who dared trespass would quickly find out I wasn't just a recluse, I was a hunter in my own territory. It started with a call from Hank, my longtime hay hauler. His voice was tight, strained, almost panicked. "Milo, I'm at the bottom of Willow Creek Lane, and there's a setup." "What kind of setup?" I asked, heart steadying. "Two HOA guys, cones, a small USB. They're saying I need some kind of pass to come up." I didn't flinch, not anymore. My mind raced, cataloging every piece of intelligence I'd gathered from the fake inspector, the black notebook, and the previous encounters. This wasn't harassment. It was escalation, bold, public, and illegal. I grabbed my body cam, checked my shotgun, loaded but secured, and followed the gravel road down. The sight that greeted me was almost comical, if it weren't criminal. Two men, cones arranged in a sloppy lane, and a folding barricade that looked like it came from a school gym sale. At the center, clipboard guy and aviators, pacing like they had authority, with Hank's livestock trailer blocked halfway. I parked just far enough to capture everything on dash cam, then stepped out slowly, each footfall deliberate, every motion calm. Daisy walked beside me, silent and attentive. "Gentlemen," I said, "get off my road." The man with the clipboard puffed his chest. "Sir, this is an active safety inspection zone. You must remain until we complete the assessment." I laughed quietly. "Assessment of what? My private property?" I raised the county parcel map. "Every inch of this road belongs to me. You are trespassing, obstructing lawful commerce, and impersonating authority." Aviator stiffened, glancing nervously at the cameras now clearly mounted around the gate. The men realized, too late, they were being recorded from multiple angles. Their bluff crumbled. Clipboard guy exhaled, shoulders slumping. "Fine, we'll move the cones." Hank leaned out of the trailer window, grinning. "Want me to run one over next time?" "Tempting," I said, "but let's let the law handle it, for now." As the SUV retreated, I collected the footage, uploaded it to a private archive, then flipped the visibility to public on a whim. Title: HOA blocks delivery on private property. Watch what happens. Within hours, it went viral. Thousands of views, dozens of comments. People were outraged, entertained, and horrified. The HOA had no idea their actions had become a public spectacle. But Karen West wasn't backing down. She was escalating, planning something even more audacious. That afternoon I heard it from the ridge, voices over a handheld radio, thin, impatient, clipped tones, barricades, tents, and signs. They were preparing a full-scale checkpoint right on my property line. I felt the old thrill of a hunt rise in me. Years of investigation and field work told me exactly how to respond, not with panic, not with reaction, but with strategy. Sheriff Harland was on the line within minutes. "Milo, I hear you have a situation." "Yes," I said, keeping my tone calm. "They're building a checkpoint. Barricades, cones, radios, unauthorized." "Bring proof," he said, already mobilizing deputies. I sent the black notebook scans, the trespass videos, and the new footage. By sunrise, the HOA's ambition collided with law enforcement reality. Deputy Cortez and Barnett arrived, followed by the county prosecutor. Karen West, dressed like a general surveying her conquest, froze when the cruisers rolled up. "Step away from the barricade," Cortez commanded. "This is safety enforcement," she tried, voice shaking. The prosecutor opened his folder, reading aloud. "Unauthorized road checkpoint on private property, trespass, impersonation of regulatory authority, obstruction of lawful delivery, criminal offenses." Her confident facade cracked. Commands, threats, and pretense evaporated as deputies prepared to enforce the law. Within minutes, Karen's patrolman stepped aside, embarrassed, unsure, defeated. Karen herself was placed under arrest, shouting about community sovereignty, her voice echoing against the pines, impotent against the weight of the law. As the cruiser drove away, the air felt lighter. For the first time in weeks, the road was mine. But this was far from the end. Karen's obsession would not vanish quietly, and the legal proceedings ahead promised more twists. Inside, I reviewed the footage, photographs, and notes. Every angle, every word, every act of escalation was documented. This wasn't just about trespassing or harassment anymore. This was criminal intent, meticulously planned, and, fortunately for me, meticulously recorded. By nightfall, the story had gone public, neighbors calling, journalists interested, and the HOA left fumbling. Willow Creek Lane had survived the first wave, but Karen's reach extended further, and the chessboard was far from cleared. I poured a glass of whiskey, Daisy resting her head on my knee, and allowed myself a small smile. The storm had begun, yes, but now I wasn't just defending. I was ready to strike back with evidence, patience, and strategy. And the next move would be mine entirely. The morning sun hit Willow Creek Lane with a harsh clarity, painting the gravel road in sharp lines. But the tension in the air was thicker than any fog. I stepped outside, Daisy at my side, and checked the cameras one last time. Every angle, every barricade, every intrusion had been recorded. Karen West and her HOA hadn't just trespassed, they had built their own trap. And this time, the law would walk in behind me. By 9 a.m., the courthouse was already buzzing. Reporters, neighbors, and even a few curious ranchers from miles around filled the parking lot. Karen arrived in her silver Lexus, wearing the same sharp navy suit, face tense, but trying to project authority. She had no idea how far her overreach would reach this time. Inside, the courtroom was silent as the judge, a seasoned woman with piercing eyes, entered. Karen's lawyer tried to start with the usual fluff about community safety and HOA governance, but the judge raised her hand. "This case," she said, voice cutting through the chatter, "is not about HOA regulations. It is about criminal trespass, impersonation of a public official, obstruction of lawful activity, and harassment. Let's be clear on the law." I watched Karen's confidence evaporate like mist. Her lips quivered. She tried to interject. The judge ignored her.
Rachel stepped forward next, crisp, precise, and calm. Every video, every photograph, and every page from the black notebook was laid out like pieces on a chessboard. The fake inspector, the checkpoint, the trespass, the barricades, the threats, every single act was documented. Karen's face went pale as Rachel read aloud her own words from subpoenaed emails. Fly drive will be ours by the end of the month. Build the checkpoint regardless. A ripple ran through the courtroom. Even the other HOA members in the back shifted nervously. Karen stammered, That's taken out of context." The judge's gaze bored into her. "Out of context? You ordered a full-scale, unauthorized checkpoint on private property. That is intent. That is planning. That is criminal." Karen tried one last feeble argument about community oversight, HOA rights, and even claimed the judge herself should side with her. The courtroom erupted with murmurs. Rachel's voice cut through like steel. "Your community obsession does not override the law. Private property is protected. Your officers had no authority. Your checkpoint was illegal. And all of this is recorded." The prosecutor stood, nodding. "We are charging Karen West with impersonation of a public official, trespass, harassment, and obstruction of commerce. Larkspur Hills HOA is facing civil penalties for all acts associated with these offenses." Karen's lawyer tried to intervene, but the judge silenced him with a look. Within minutes, the verdict was clear. Karen West, 1-year probation, 300 hours community service, banned from holding HOA office for 5 years, mandatory restitution to Milo, and public apology. Larkspur Hills HOA fined $330,000 for harassment, obstruction, and unauthorized operations. Karen slumped into her seat, the weight of her ambition collapsing like a house of cards. Deputies escorted her out, red-faced, sputtering about community sovereignty and rights, but no one was listening. Outside, reporters captured every second, the evidence of her obsession now immortalized in video and print. I stepped outside, the Colorado sun bright on my shoulders. Daisy trotted ahead, tail high, ears alert. I breathed deeply. The road was mine again, safe, quiet, and lawfully protected. The barricades, cones, and threats were gone. Hank pulled up with another load of hay. He tipped his hat and grinned. "So, security applications open yet?" "Only if you bring a flamethrower," I joked, and we both laughed, the tension of weeks finally dissolving into the cool evening air. The neighborhood slowly learned the lesson. You can't intimidate Milo Phylin. You can't fake authority. And the law, backed by evidence, strategy, and patience, always wins against arrogance. For the first time in weeks, the road, the land, and my life felt right. Daisy barked at a rabbit in the field, unbothered by the past, unaware of the chaos that had threatened our peace. I poured a glass of whiskey, watched the sunlight flicker across the gravel, and smiled. The battle was over. The HOA's illusions were shattered. Justice had been served, and Willow Creek Lane was finally, completely mine.
Every neighborhood has its secrets, and every Karen leaves her mark. If you love true HOA stories like this, make sure to watch more on our channel, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life neighborhood drama. Thank you.